It's an honor and a pleasure to meet you.
Same. Very nice to meet you as well.
We don't, what is it, 15 minutes?
Yeah.
I'll jump right into a little bit of my background. I was wrongfully convicted to 60 years to life in prison for something I didn't do. They threw me in solitary confinement for like 12 years. In solitary confinement, I started studying the law. I got really good at it. I got myself out, and I was exonerated about 5-6 years ago. So all these judges and lawyers are like, you got to get back into law, because I honestly didn't want to touch another law book again. Started getting into school ever since then, had a 4.0, got into Pomona College. So now it's like, there's always a silver lining to everything. But through my experience, it made me realize how passionate I am about law, and what a positive difference I can make in the world by helping to save innocent lives. So now I want to be an attorney and maybe even a judge one day. So what the reason I'm in school, going to law school, it goes far beyond academics. What makes me go is about changing the world and making a positive difference and trying to save lives. So I'm very hungry, very passionate. Been given a second chance at life, a second chance education. So I'm trying to make the most of it. Anything that, you throw at me, I'm willing to take on a challenge. I'm very, committed as far as, I have no social life. This is all I do. I love to study. I nerd out. So I'm going to be taking the LSAT in, I think September, October. I'm in the LEAP fellowship, legal pipeline. And so I think we have something scheduled for you during the summer, if I'm not mistaken. It was about 9 months away. So I'm just trying to get a preliminary, trying to set the groundwork for acquiring good habits, because I don't want to because when I go in, Steve, I go hard, and I don't, it's hard for me to turn it around and unlearn things. So before I just absorb and just dive into everything, I want to make sure that I'm going in with the right approach on everything. So it's a lot of preliminary questions I have just to get me going. And then I'll keep you updated along the process, and then we'll so that way it gives both of us a great start for the summer when we get more serious.
Sure. Well, I'm floored by your story and your background, and I appreciate your sharing it with me. It sounds like you're really diligent and hardworking and looking to turn lemons into lemonade, make a positive impact with everything you've been through. I can't imagine, but I'm really inspired by what you're looking to do. So kudos to you on that.
I appreciate that. Yeah. And I have a different outlook on life. When people see me around campus, dancing and skipping, and this guy, they're like, God, this guy loves to take tests. He loves to do homework, until they hear my story. They're like, oh, that's why, so it's fun. It's exciting. And then all these opportunities that I've been having, I already got the T14 schools looking at me. I'm in the fellowship, meeting all these justices and judges. It's an amazing experience. And so, I'm just continuing. The best way I know how to give back, Steve, is by going out and being successful. And that's my best way to say thank you for everything that you and everyone that invest in me, and going out and doing something with it and applying it and using it for the greater good of all of us.
Sure. Sure.
So my first question is, so I'm 9 months away. I was going to already start carving out the 10-15 hours a week that you had mentioned, but I don't know if that might be too soon. I'm not sure. I didn't equate into, I'm going to be taking a logic class in the spring as kind of just to get me back up to, because I took symbolic logic before in community college. Now that I'm at Pomona, I'm going to take upper division logic. And I didn't consider that's part of my 10-15 hours, right? That's part of my LSAT prep, or should I carve out extra as well?
Well, a logic class is useful.
Yes.
But I wouldn't do it for the purposes of LSAT prep.
Okay.
If your sole focus was to get a top LSAT score and get into a top law school,
yes,
I wouldn't even bother with the logic class.
Okay.
I would focus instead on taking classes that are, of course, intellectually stimulating, but also where you can easily get a good grade, because GPA is what LSAT score, and GPA is what matters. And if a logic class wouldn't come naturally to you, or if it would be hard to get an A in that class, I wouldn't even bother with it. And I hate saying that because college should be about learning. But if the goal is law school, you want the top GPA, and it is primarily numbers driven.
Yeah.
I would instead, if your goal is the top LSAT score, top law school, just focus on LSAT prep. Take whatever you want in college, but focus on LSAT prep. You've got a long time if you're taking it in the fall, of course, but it's never too early to start dipping your toes in the water and start familiarizing yourself with it, especially if you want 165, 170 plus, because it does take a lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm willing to put in that work. And I mean, as you can know from my story, impossible just doesn't process to me. And so I'm pushing for 170 to 180, no less. I'm going to be trying to put in as much work as I can. I actually do enjoy the logic. When I took symbolic logic, it was so fun. There were like puzzles and games, and it was just like, I finished with a 107 to professor, and I'm like, I need more. And she's like, there's nothing else left other than upper division. So I think I'm going to enjoy it. But I hear what you're saying about my GPA. So I'm focusing on that too, not pushing myself too much as far as, pushing myself challenge to where I can make the most of my undergraduate experience, but at the same time being smart and strategic about it as well. Okay. So, and how often, I'm going to start, there's a lot of free resources. I haven't done a diagnostic. Like I said, I haven't really got my feet wet and everything. I'm going to start going through all your resources one at a time, because I kind of wanted to do all this. There's a lot of free resources, other places. I'm looking around, but I wanted to complement what you're lining us up for very well. I don't want it to, it's one style and then another style, and then there's a conflict. So if there's any recommendations, what complements your course on the side, or I could just dive into yours.
Yeah, well, my resources have everything. I've got written materials. Okay. I've got video courses. I've got live classes. And so you don't need to go beyond what I have. Okay. If you want textbooks, you can definitely get textbooks as well. But I try to boil things down to their essence, keeping it really concise. So I've got guides, cheat sheets, checklists, explanations, along with the full video courses for every section. And like I said, it's not too early to start diving in. You don't even need to do a diagnostic, because it'll just tell you, you've got to study the LSAT. It's like learning a new language. Okay. So take the time, start dipping into it, listen to the podcast, watch the YouTube channel. And then when you're ready to focus more on it full force, then get some of the other resources as well. Okay. I do have a couple of thoughts for you on the admission side of things as well, given what you shared, if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Okay. For the admissions, you said?
On the admission side, like the personal statement and such.
Yeah, feel free. Anything that you want to share with me.
Yeah, of course. So you've obviously been through a tremendous amount. I can't even imagine the details of it. And when folks have been through something like that, they often want to tell the entire chronology of it from start to finish. Like, here's what happened next, and so on and on and on. Yeah. That doesn't work that well for a personal statement because you have such limited space. Yes. So I would suggest using multiple opportunities to tell your story. You've got the main personal statement. You've got a diversity statement you could write. Okay. You also have the character and fitness. And you also have the optional, is there anything else you want to tell us? Okay. So you potentially have at least 4 different written essays where you could talk about different elements of your story. Yeah. So I wouldn't try to do it all in one long statement. Yeah. Approach it from different angles and different perspectives, and also recognize that you're not going to be able to share everything in your application period. There just isn't the room for it. You could write a book, you could have a movie, you know what I mean? Like, there's so much you could tell. Take some time, and you have months to do this. Yeah. Take the time to start drafting your story, free writing it, brainstorming, and refining over a long period of time. The numbers are the number one factor in admissions, but it's also worth taking the time to tell your story as well as you possibly can. And that takes time. That takes months where you write a draft, you put it away, you come back, you look at it again, you put it away again, back and forth, on and off, multiple drafts. I think you can end up with a really compelling killer piece of writing in the end, of really multiple pieces. Yeah. But I wouldn't wait until the fall to do this. Yeah. Yeah. It takes time. Plus, I learned from the application process undergraduate, when I applied to the colleges, it was almost like therapy,
because I was digging up all this stuff, all this trauma that I had suppressed for so it was a painful process. So I'm like writing and crying and crying and writing. It takes time. I can't just sit there and be like, oh, this is my life. No, it's an emotional process. So, and then like you said, write it holistically, kind of leave breadcrumbs, but you're kind of like painting a picture, but all that different, and let them put it together themselves, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. From habit-wise, what skills can I start learning on now early on that's going to help me later on as well for the LSAT prep?
I think a big part of it is simply learning to block out the time to do this.
Okay.
It's hard when you have other obligations, especially if you're not a young 20-something who's living on their parents supporting them and nothing else to do. Right? If you have responsibilities, you have obligations, it's a lot harder to fit in the time. And so get into the habit of blocking off the time in your schedule for anything. I mean, you could use that time for coursework now if you want, like the logic class, but you could also, it's not too early to start spending even 5-10 hours a week at least devoted to this, starting to master a certain question type or a certain section of the LSAT, because this really is a test of pattern recognition. And the more you can take the time to learn those patterns and absorb them into your subconscious, the better you'll do, even if you're taking the LSAT more than 6 months from now.
Okay. I noticed that from when I was studying for the SAT too, it was almost like getting inside their head. I know this is a different test. You got to get inside their head. You're looking for, I'm great at finding parallels, looking for studying patterns, stuff like that. So like you said, start. And when I first got into college, they said, if you get straight A's, people will pay you to go to school. And I started, so I know the LSAT is gonna determine my scholarship money. And I haven't got compensated. They make it very hard for exonerees to get compensated now. So I'm basically, my grades are paying for my school. So this is everything. Like my job is to go to school and get straight A's. With the LSAT, I'm looking at it, like you said, look at it like a part-time job, and that's why I said why I take this so serious, because everything's on the line. So I am willing to carve out that time, and I'm going to look at it like a part-time job. As far as this is all my only responsibility is school. It's to go to school and continue to succeed, and everything else will be taken care of through scholarships and stuff like that.
That's great to hear. And I think that's the right perspective to look at this from. I mean, the LSAT translates into scholarship money. Yeah.
I mean, and especially like you said, for a non-traditional student like myself, I mean, choices are nice, but it comes down to money. And, it's a sad reality, but that's just the way it is. One thing, what skills do you see separates LSAT students from those that get average scores from those that get high scores?
Well, I think it actually ties into something that you said earlier, which I say a lot myself, which is that you got to come to see the exam from the test maker's perspective.
Okay.
What tricks are they using to ramp up the difficulty level of the questions? I mean, a level 5 question might include 5 different nuances that make it that much more difficult. Yeah. So if you can start to see the different ways they constructed it bit by bit, like a level 1 question might have no tricks. Level 3 question might have a couple. Level 5 will have everything in the kitchen sink thrown into it.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of unravel or dissect and analyze the different aspects of the question, the different strands that make it quite so difficult. If you can unravel those and kind of see like X-ray vision, then you'll do much better with them.
Okay. Now is that what I'm trying to conceptualize first before I get into these tactical strategies and the timing and all this other stuff? Before I get into the technical stuff, start just like you said, start getting familiar with the process, start learning, looking for patterns, start trying to understand what they're testing for, what they're looking for. And then it just, through time, the strategies and the timing will come naturally.
Yeah. I mean, you get faster at it in part by getting better at it. There are pacing strategies we can talk about down the line, but initially it's going to be where you're building the foundation first, just building a baseline familiarity with all the different sections and question types. Then you'll focus on improving your accuracy. Then you'll work on pacing, then endurance, then review. And review is actually where a lot of that analysis comes in. So you may not want to get into that analysis quite so early in the process because you're just getting your feet wet. But eventually, we talked about 170 plus. What separates those students? Those students are seeing it from the test maker's perspective. It takes time to get there though.
Yeah.
And the fact that you have several months till your LSAT test date means that you're in a great position to get to that point.
Yeah, I want to start. This was my 2020. I said I'm going to turn around and take it in the fall, and I'm just going to start going at the LSAT because yeah, this is the next step, and this is it's going to determine a lot of my future. So, um, and what I'm looking for the. I know this is down the line too, but for future reference, where do I find the free exams? I'm looking for free exams. They're hard to find. Are they in those books?
Yeah, so the exams, they're available on Amazon in books of 10 for about $20 each.
Okay.
There are also a few on LSAT's site. Mm-hmm. There's the free June 2007 LSAT PDF.
I found that one, yeah.
And then there's also 3 of them in the digital LSAT format at familiar.lsac.org.
Okay. I try to recreate my exam experience as much as I can. You know, I study with my shoes on, coffee, just everything the same way I would take a test. And so start practicing with again, this is later on before I'm not even at the practice exam part, but start practicing with the digital, on the tablet, everything like that, right?
Yeah, those are all the right things to be thinking about down the line, at least.
Okay. I'm going to start going through all your material. I was just looking on here and I'm just like, wow. I'm going to start going through that. That'll keep me busy, and I could watch at least one blog a day, with about an hour each. And then that will help a lot. From how long did you take to prep? You said about a year?
Took me about a year. Yeah, it was a lot of work.
And then, yeah, I wish I could go through your whole process. So 9 months is good. If there was anything that you, like, just right now off the top of your head, what did you do right? What was the one thing that you did right? What is it?
I would say it was the review. So every single mistake I made, figuring out what was tempting about the wrong answer choice that made me pick it, and what ultimately made it wrong, and what was discouraging or unappealing about the right answer that pushed me away from it, but what ultimately made it correct in the end. So there are these traps of discouragement away from the right answer and traps of encouragement luring you towards the wrong answer. And that's part of the patterns in how they construct this exam, how they increase the difficulty level. And so being relentless in not letting go of anything I didn't understand, not simply saying, okay, I get it now and moving on, but really forcing myself to stick with those tough problems. Yeah, that's what helps you avoid making those same mistakes again in the future.
Okay, when I was doing the SAT prep, I would go over the study exams, and there was quite a few that I would redo the other ones, the first ones, and by the time I did a whole cycle, I forgot those. So can I run through all of them? What is it, like 80 something? And that's plenty to run through all. I'm not saying I'm going to do them all, but I'm going to try. And then by that time, I'm going to probably forget the first one, so then I can start them all over again, right?
Yeah, you could certainly do something like that. And you've got the time where you could theoretically do every single exam released. I don't think you need to do all of them. You could do the most recent half, like the most recent 45 or so, and that would be perfectly fine. Okay. But I like the thought behind this, because not only are you likely to forget the ones you did longest ago, but also, even if you didn't forget them 100%, there is still value in redoing them. Yeah. Yeah, because I'm probably, I may or may not, because like you said, it's the ones that I got right, it'll drill those in. And even the ones that I got wrong, it'll make sure that I learned the first time around on why I did them. Okay. And then on that same question, going back to when you were going through your whole LSAT prep, if there was anything you could have done differently, what is it? Just one thing. Yeah, I think so. This comes back to the idea of like going through all the exams in order. Like that was an impulse that I had as well, but you've got to build the foundation first. Okay. So approaching it systematically, step by step. And that's what my study schedules are all about. Giving that logical plan of attack so that you're building the foundation, familiarizing yourself with the basics of each section and question type, and also doing some of them untimed first. Okay. To work on your accuracy before you introduce the timed component of the pacing. Okay, so in order, you had said timing, then accuracy? So here's the approach. I call this the LASER approach to LSAT study. I remember that, yeah. Yeah, so LASER is an acronym standing for learning, accuracy, sections, exams, and review. So learning is the theory. Accuracy is individual questions by type. S is for sections, which is where you work on your pacing. Timed 35-minute sections. E is for exams and endurance, doing full-length 5-section exams. And R is for review. And that is what was missing from my approach initially, where I was just doing exam after exam and measuring myself. Yeah. You got to slow down and build the foundation first.
Okay, that's I'll email you after this.
Perfect.
Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, and then I'll share some more stuff with you about my my story and some things I would like to share with you. One thing because I volunteer at the Innocence Project, a Loyola Law School project for the innocent, and I talk to a lot of law students there, and they bring up flashcards a lot, preparing for the LSAT, but I don't see that come up a lot of. I don't see it come up in any of the study exams and anywhere. Flashcards, but some law students swear by them. It's like 2,000 flashcards. I don't get it.
I mean, for LSAT prep, flashcards aren't really that useful because this is not a test of memorization.
Exactly. Okay.
So maybe for law school they could be useful. I don't know, but for the LSAT, it's not relevant.
Okay. Also, what's the best time to apply for, since we were talking about money-wise scholarships? I know the earlier you apply, or at a certain time there's more money available.
The earlier the better. The earlier the better. So if you take it in September, have everything else ready to go. The second your scores come back, just hit submit.
Okay. In the September cycle, right?
Yeah.
I will retake as many times as I have to. What do you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, listen, if September doesn't go well for you, I mean, you could have October or November already registered just in case. Yeah. Have those ready to go. And then once you got the score you want, hit submit on your application. Okay. And earlier is relatively better, but rolling admissions matters much less than it used to. So applying early matters much less. So you could take it in November and apply right after that, and that's still perfectly fine.
Okay. Because the law of the mean of the curve. So I mean, just naturally retaking it'll, if anything, it won't hurt. So.
Definitely not. I mean, law schools don't average multiple scores; they only take the highest. So there's not really much downside to retaking.
Yeah, I think I'm going to retake it because the SAT was a little it was a traumatic experience because it felt like being processed all over again through county jail. It was just a weird experience. I didn't expect that, and it brought back a lot of uncomfortable feelings. Then they proctored me because of my age. I mean, they put me in front of the proctors, so they were like, my name was highlighted, all kinds of security checks. It was a very uncomfortable feeling. I'm just like, wow. So it's good to get through, go through that just so I know this whole standardized test experience. As far as the older versions of the books, if always get the newer versions, because I noticed they have a lot of resales, older versions, but those are usually outdated, right? Or are they like textbooks where they just add a sentence and then they resell them for a new?
To a large extent, yeah, but because the LSAT's digital now, there are certain things that are different. And so I would focus on resources that cover the digital LSAT specifically, because some things are different. But when it comes to the previously released LSAT exams, just the numbering means more recent is more relevant because the exam evolves over time.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, cool. I think we're up.
Yeah, we're about up. But before we sign off, what would you say is the biggest insight you got from our call today?
It was the learning steps because I need structure. And I've noticed from a lot of, straight A students, like just high scoring students that excel, as I was talking to even law students that excel in law school, it's one thing we like structure. We need structure. We need guidance, and we need that focus. And it's funny, no pun intended, but that laser focus and the laser step that you told me, it's good because it gives me a game plan. I'm just like, okay, where do I go? It's like, go for this, then go for this, then go for this. And so it gives me, like guidance and direction. So I appreciate that. That was really helpful. But everything was very helpful because, everything you share, there's nuggets of wisdom, and it's a gift that keeps on giving. It's like this, and from what I had to go through before for the legal knowledge that I had to acquire, for now, for you to sit here and hand it to me, I really appreciate and I value everything that you share with me, and I'm going to do my best to be successful with it. So I appreciate everything, Steve. I appreciate taking the time and just the talk and everything you're sharing with us. I'm looking forward to the summer as well.
Same, Ruben. Well, it was really a pleasure connecting with you. It was an honor as well. And I look forward to keeping in touch. Please let me know if there's any way I can help you moving forward.
I appreciate that. I'll email you and we'll keep in touch.
Definitely. Be well.
All right, thank you, Steve. Okay,
all the
bye.
Best. Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I wish you all the best and take care.